This is the CBS Evening News. Connie Chung sitting in for Dan Rather. Good evening and a happy 4th of July. Pro- and anti-abortion forces across the country used this day after the momentous Supreme Court decision to praise and protest. They took to the streets believing now more than ever before the issue is a political one to be fought at the ballot box. CBS News law correspondent Rita Braver has more.
The passion unleashed by yesterday's abortion decision exploded today on the streets of America.
The blood of these innocent babies is on you.
Pro-choice and anti-abortion demonstrators clashed in Pittsburgh and Boston,
We gotta fight for the right to keep abortion safe and legal. Yeah!
Los Angeles, Annapolis, and other cities. Most of the rallies, in fact, were staged by the side that lost in yesterday's decision.
Yesterday, 5 citizens of this great country determined that childbearing age women will, in the future, have their reproductive organs regulated by government.
The national emergency meeting that we want to have next week.
And the pro-choice lobby is already mobilizing.
We can no longer depend on the court to protect our rights. It now depends on our votes, and we intend to take that message immediately into the political races we are targeting for '89.
But the anti-abortion side plans to continue its own political push.
So I think people are energized, and I think that you're going to see an increased energy level and more activism from pro-life people and the movement in general.
And yesterday's decision was the culmination of a political vision. The justices who made the difference were appointed by anti-abortion President Ronald Reagan. Sandra Day O'Connor, Antonin Scalia, and Anthony Kennedy joined with William Rehnquist, elevated to Chief Justice by Reagan, and Byron White.
I think it demonstrates, if you will, what impact a president can have upon the court over time. If George Bush does get an opportunity to appoint a justice or two to the Supreme Court, my guess would be that they would be more in the Reagan model than they would the liberal model.
But even with the current court makeup, most court watchers today are saying that it's just a matter of when, not if, the broad right to abortion granted in the famous Roe versus Wade decision will fall. Rita Braver, CBS News, at the Supreme Court.
Candidates for office now have reason to fear their political lives will rise or fall on the abortion question. That was clear today as Richard Roth found those facing election in a few months already are squirming.
Hi, how are you?
Garbage disposal and transportation and the high cost of insurance were the issues people were asking about and politicians talking about in New Jersey's gubernatorial campaign until the Supreme Court spoke on abortion.
Supreme Court really threw things into the race for New Jersey this time, just opened up a whole Pandora's box about it.
New Jersey is one of 9 states that helps pay for abortions. The public funding issue here was settled 7 years ago. But with the governorship and all 80 assembly seats at stake in fall elections, abortion is now an issue once again.
On July 3rd, Americans lost a fundamental liberty.
The National Abortion Rights Action League is counting New Jersey among the new battleground states, targeting it for an ad campaign emphasizing that state elections will ultimately determine whether abortions are restricted.
Now it's up to you to win back this fundamental right.
At a holiday picnic in southern New Jersey, the Democrat running for governor called the court's decision unfortunate.
If I were the governor and someone sent a law to me making it a crime to have an abortion, making the woman a criminal, I would veto that.
She'll vote for you.
Oh, thank you.
At a holiday parade to the north, the Republican said he was pleased with the court.
The people of New Jersey, through their legislators, now can decide when public money should be used for abortion and when public money should not be used for abortion.
Mostly, he said, it should not. But the politics of the issue are not clear-cut. Young voters aged 30 and under now make up the Republican Party's fastest-growing constituency, which may help make abortion an especially difficult problem for Republican candidates. The young tend to support legalized abortion. Republican Quarter said it's a complicated issue that ought to be addressed without hot rhetoric. That seems unlikely. Arguments about abortion were part of the passing scene on a day traditionally devoted to the celebration of other kinds of rights. Richard Roth, CBS News, Plainfield, New Jersey.
Former President Ronald Reagan was hospitalized in Arizona today following a holiday horseback riding accident. X-rays indicate the 78-year-old former president had bruises but no broken bones. Bill Plant is in Washington. He has more on Mr. Reagan's accident. Bill?
Connie, former President Ronald Reagan was thrown from a horse today in Mexico, but apparently suffered only minor injuries. The Secret Service said that Mr. Reagan was taken to a hospital just across the border in Arizona, and the early word, no broken bones or internal injuries, just a few cuts and scrapes.
There are few things Ronald Reagan would rather do than ride or talk about it, both of which he did frequently while he was president.
Very much. I am a deep believer that there's nothing so good for the inside of a man as the outside of a horse.
True to his word, the 78-year-old Mr. Reagan, whose Secret Service code name as president was Rawhide, spent almost every vacation on horseback at his mountaintop ranch near Santa Barbara. This time, he was visiting old friend William Wilson's ranch in Sonora, Mexico. His mount, according to staff members, began bucking wildly on a rocky slope and then stumbled. The former president was thrown, landing on his arms and back. President Bush was informed of the accident by the Secret Service. A staff member says the president is relieved to hear that Mr. Reagan is okay and plans to call him later.
After his examination at the hospital, Mr. Reagan was reportedly feeling well enough to ask about resuming his ride. He joked that the fall was his own private rodeo. And sources tell us that the former president said that he wanted to get out and get back on that damn horse. Connie?
Thank you, Bill Plant. The right to burn the American flag in protest was another Supreme Court ruling that was openly debated today. Bruce Morton reports it was done more with actions than words.
That all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights.
It was a different kind of birthday.
Stop.
In Austin, Texas, some people burned the flag. The Supreme Court has ruled they are free to do that. In Nokesville, Virginia, they flew their flags upside down. They thought the Supreme Court was wrong.
It's an international symbol of distress, and I think they've distressed the Constitution with their actions.
Nobody burns an American flag, but nobody.
These people in Costa Mesa, California, thought the court was wrong, too. They handed out what they said were fireproof flags.
We hope that the American people will respect this decision for what it is. We do.
This group in Birmingham did not burn the flag, but felt the freedom to do so was important. In Miami, businessman Eduardo Martinez, a Cuban exile who's been a big success here in his new country, held a party for friends and neighbors and cardboard cutouts of some heroes. He's against the court.
How can you burn your flag? How can you burn the representation of your country?
In Jacksonville, Florida, some American Legionnaires did what the law says to do, burned respectfully some worn-out flags. It wasn't all argument this birthday, though. Another symbol turned up in a couple of places, replicas of that statue to democracy that Chinese students had in Beijing. In Boston, support for an idea as important, perhaps, as a flag.
Democracy is a cause for whole humanity.
Some places just did regular birthday stuff. 2 steamboats raced from New Orleans to St. Louis. The Mississippi Queen won. In Chicago, Ted Cambrus and his staff, he sells real estate, put flags on people's lawns. And if you're a kid, you wanted to be in LaGrange, Georgia today. They had a kids-only parade.
I hereby declare on oath.
And in Birmingham, Alabama, and Indianapolis, Indiana, and all over the country, people from other countries took an oath.
The Constitution and the laws of the United States of America.
We argue about those laws and that Constitution. We are proud and passionate and puzzling to outsiders. But a lot of new Americans joined in today to celebrate the birthday of the USA. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Washington.
Victoria.
What, they finally found a substitute for the sweet roll. Hey.
Nutrigrains, almond raisin.
What is this, nuts and twigs?
Try almonds, raisins, and these great flakes made with brown rice.
But there's no sugar added.
Irv, you're gonna love the taste, even though it's healthy.
Hey, don't you have a story to write? How's this? Man eats healthy food and lives.
The amazing taste of Nutri-Grain's almond raisin.
It's news.
I just cannot believe this.
Wow, I am totally freaked out.
Could this be a dream?
It's no dream. These people all won big money in the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes.
Look at all these zeros.
And what am I going to do with all this later?
Now you can win $10 million if you stop what you're doing. Look for this house and enter the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. You'll be a millionaire if your number is announced on TV this August 3rd. The Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes.
Believe me, believe in it.
Get ready for a new eye drop so refreshing you won't believe your eyes.
Wow.
Introducing new Visine Extra. An extra medication cools, soothes, moisturizes, and protects irritated eyes. New Visine Extra.
Today's Tuesday. Started moving yesterday, and my arthritis pain acted up. More pain today. Took aspirin both days.
If you take aspirin often, make it tri-buffered Bufferin. 100% aspirin, plus 3 buffers. Bufferin, if you take aspirin more than once a week.
Less than a week before President Bush heads for Eastern Europe, Mikhail Gorbachev arrived in France today on another goodwill visit to the West. In talks with President Mitterrand, Gorbachev is pushing for expanded trade and also promoting his vision of a common European home from the Atlantic to the Ural Mountains. Just across the French border in Belgium, the present division of Europe was dramatized in a fatal plane crash. Peter Van Sant reports.
A pilotless Soviet MiG-23 fighter crashed into a house in Belgium this morning, killing one man and ending a bizarre 500-mile mystery flight, which has left NATO military commanders scratching their heads over what happened.
I haven't got the faintest idea. The only thing we can think of is a simple technical failure. Technical failure in what way? Please don't ask me, because I can't ask the pilot.
Based on Soviet and NATO sources, here is what happened. The Soviet MiG took off from an airbase in Poland. At 40,000 feet, the jet developed engine trouble and the pilot ejected. The MiG then streaked across the West German border at 300 miles per hour. 2 U.S. F-15 fighters were scrambled to intercept what had become a potential threat. But when the 2 F-15 pilots pulled alongside the Soviet jet, they were surprised at what they saw.
There appears to be no pilot. No pilot. The canopy is missing.
The Soviet jet then ran out of fuel and crashed in Belgium, adding some irony and embarrassment to Gorbachev's latest peace and disarmament offensive across the border in France.
This is a unique occurrence. There has never been a case of an unmanned aircraft flying from a Warsaw Pact nation into NATO airspace.
Today's incident marks the second time a MiG fighter has crashed in Western Europe this year. Last month, a MiG-29 went down during the Paris Air Show. NATO commanders are puzzled why the Soviets or East Germans didn't shoot down the pilotless plane. And they hope that next time, the Soviets will at least warn them when one of their fighters takes an unscheduled flight west. Peter Van Sant, CBS News, London.
In Poland, hundreds of Solidarity activists took their seats today as members of a new parliament, the first time an opposition group has been represented in a Soviet bloc legislature. Solidarity leader Lech Wałęsa sat down with Communist Party leader Wojciech Jaruzelski, who imprisoned him 8 years ago, along with many more of the new deputies.
So, are you doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing fine.
Dad was afraid I'd find a starving artist up here.
Oh, Dad was worried.
Okay. I admit, I was a bit worried when my little sister took off on her own.
I'm not so little anymore.
Here, let me get that.
No way. Mine.
American Express, huh? I'm going to stop worrying about you.
Making you feel like a million. To become a member, look for this display and take one.
After going to the hospital and after being treated for my broken finger, I realized that I had a headache. And the doctor suggested that I take Tylenol. It emphasized how much hospitals and how much doctors really trust Tylenol. So I went ahead and I took it. Ever since then, I've been using Tylenol.
Shelley Pyle trusts Tylenol, the pain reliever hospitals use most.
If they feel it's good enough for their patients, then I feel it's good enough for me also.
Now try new gelatin-coated gel caps, only from Tylenol.
This is a phone. This is a finger. This is how easy it is for anyone to get 100% fiber optic long-distance calls that cost less than AT&T and sound better. Just call U.S. Sprint now and talk with the best.
Just this much Court-Aid heals more kinds of itches and rashes than all of these. Because Court-Aid has a clinically proven healing medicine they don't have. That's why Court-Aid is the itch-aid.
For China, this 4th of July marks 1 month to the day since the massacre in Tiananmen Square. Today in Paris, 2 fugitive leaders of the Movement for Democracy surfaced to announce they are founding a worldwide organization to carry on the struggle. Wu Kai-shi, one of China's most wanted, the one who had confronted Li Peng on Chinese television, said today, at present, China is shrouded in silence, but that just means a new and bigger storm is brewing. From Beijing, Eric Engberg reports the government is doing all it can to tighten that shroud of silence.
Even grief has been recruited for duty in China's one-note propaganda machine. The funerals for soldiers who died crushing the students, like the one today, are public extravaganzas. Western cameras are welcome. The same cameras barred from the trials, the jails, the police stations. Soldiers' families can cry out loud. Families of dead students cannot. It is not wise, they have been told, to mourn in public. That even tears are now controlled is a measure of the depth and success of the repression. On this July 4th, 1 month after the massacre, Tiananmen Square is a fitting symbol for all China. It is closed and under constant armed guard. In the parks where lively political banter flourished in the spring, now even a promise of anonymity will not wash away the fear of speaking out.
We couldn't determine whether here's the detective.
Outside the cities in the Chinese countryside, the guns, the troops, the sullenness of the population are not in evidence. But the fear is. A group of farmers refuses to talk about the turmoil. One says, it is not good to be asking questions here because the government might get angry. In the hamlet of Tanjuan, the government's propaganda task is easy. A peasant notes their only source of news is state-run television. A watermelon vendor believes the government has told the truth about what happened, but he voices no interest. It is very far from our lives. Chinese filmmakers who had been tasting some artistic freedom have now been called in and ordered to cut Western influence, to produce pro-communist movies. But the real weapon in the cities is sheer terror. By night, the police convoys close off entire neighborhoods and hunt down the dissidents. In such a police state, there are few credible reports of resistance. But Western analysts detect a simmering anger, which with no relief valve can only grow. An American asking anonymity to protect Chinese friends speaks of one who survived the massacre, who is haunted by nightmares.
She wants to do something, to show her anger, to show how she feels about this, to do something.
An artist, she has painted a portrait of China, a head in chains, surrounded by fire, which she says will melt the chain one day. She must carefully keep the painting hidden, like her feelings, to wait that day. Eric Engberg, CBS News, Beijing.
What's in the spoon?
100% natural.
Better get a grip. It takes 16 spoons to equal the vitamin and mineral nutrition in just 1 spoon of Total.
That's a mouthful. More than a mouthful.
Spoon for spoon, Total has more nutrition than any other cereal.
1 spoon. Nice fit.
If it's whole wheat Total, it's Total nutrition. And for a better cornflake, try Total cornflakes. Better tasting and twice the nutrition of Kellogg's cornflakes.
Most car accidents happen in a showroom. People buy the wrong car. They want a car as quick as a Saab, as roomy as a Saab, as safe as a Saab, as reasonably priced as a Saab. But they don't test drive a Saab. Don't buy the wrong car. Visit your Saab dealer for a test drive. It's fun, it's free, and there's no risk involved.
Incredible. You know, patients come in, they don't even tell me they smoke.
after I examine them, that I find out they're trying to quit.
Yeah, you know what I tell them? It's an addiction to nicotine. You need treatment. Today we can treat nicotine addiction.
Patients don't know that. They just don't know that.
Well, it's a shame they don't come to us.
Yeah.
See your doctor. On July 5th, declare your freedom from smoking.
U.S. embassies around the world have been on alert this holiday weekend for a terrorist attack, a possible follow-up to the bombing of PanAm Flight 103 during last year's Christmas holidays. U.S. investigators are still working on that case, and David Martin tells us they report some progress.
The search for the person who unwittingly brought a bomb aboard PanAm 103 has eliminated all but a few suspects and is now concentrated on a 21-year-old Lebanese-American named Khalid Jafar.
We haven't eliminated him yet, and we've eliminated many other suspects.
Investigators have determined the bomb was in a cargo hold on the left side of the aircraft. A Samsonite suitcase checked aboard in Frankfurt, West Germany, contained a Toshiba radio cassette player with plastic explosives molded into its frame. Khalid Jafar died in the crash, so investigators are relying on scientific techniques in an effort to link him to either the Samsonite suitcase or the Toshiba boombox.
The manufacture of any type of suitcase or radio, for that matter, can be very helpful to us, and our capabilities of identifying a particular item are much better today. We're well along that line. Jafar had visited family and friends in Lebanon and was on his way home to Michigan after staying with relatives in this apartment building in Dortmund, West Germany. That's the same general area where police raided safe houses used by the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine General Command and discovered a number of bombs virtually identical to the one which blew up PanAm 103. There is evidence to suggest Jafar's address was more than just coincidence.
I do recall that he had associations, I think in Germany, that might have suggested he was connected with some of these groups from the Middle East.
Terrorist groups from the Middle East.
It's possible.
Intelligence officers are convinced the bombing of PanAm 103 was the work of Ahmed Jibril, head of the Popular Front General Command, helping Iran avenge the accidental downing of an Iranian airliner by the U.S. cruiser Vincennes. The task facing investigators is to translate that intelligence into evidence.
We had the good luck from an investigative point of view that a lot of the airplane was found on the ground.
I think we're going to solve this case. It's a type of case where we do have more forensic evidence than perhaps the ones who conspired believed would happen.
Even if they solve the case, investigators admit it will be difficult to arrest a suspect who probably already has disappeared into the terrorist underground. All they can do, investigators say, is be patient and hope the suspect makes a mistake. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
There are vitamins you take because you feel you have to, and vitamins you take because you want to. Vitamins can be flaky, bumpy, crispy, crunchy, and taste so good. It's Kellogg's Product 19 with 100% vitamin nutrition. The only high-nutrition flake made with the wholesome goodness of 4 grains, including oats. Kellogg's Product 19. Flaky, bumpy, crispy, crunchy, tasty vitamins.
Hot tea all day doesn't stop this denture era from hitting high C.
Hot tea? Fix-it and forget it.
Give up hot chocolate just because I started wearing dentures? Scab!
Hot chocolate? Fix-it and forget it. Heat-resistant Fix-it spreads evenly to keep on fixing loose spots, no matter how often it gets hot.
I can drink hot coffee all day and still help a lady.
Heat-resistant. One more reason to use Fix-it and forget it.
I'm dead tired. So why am I wide awake?
Nitol will help you get your Z's.
Nitol helps you feel drowsy so you can get your Z's.
Nitol will help you get your Z's.
It's a weather delay.
There are headaches.
Now the computer's down.
And headaches. There's aspirin and Anacin. The Anacin aspirin formula relieves headaches better than regular aspirin.
Headache better?
Not just better, better.
Anacin, better relief.
Before today's New York-Detroit game at Yankee Stadium, they recalled a historic moment. 50 years ago today at the stadium, Lou Gehrig said goodbye to baseball. He was called the Iron Horse, apparently indestructible as he played in a record 2,130 consecutive games over 14 years. When he said goodbye, he was a dying man, but grateful to his teammates and fans.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
2 years later, Lou Gehrig died of the disease that now bears his name. He was not yet 38. For many of you, as the long 4th of July holiday draws to its close, the fireworks and the concerts are still to come. But across the continent, the day already was punctuated by pomp and parades and prayer, by sports and guns and bells. Jerry Bowen reports on Independence Day 1989 in the land of the free.
From Buffalo Bayou in Houston, Texas, to the land of pâté and Chardonnay in trendy Marin County, California, all the way north to Juneau, Alaska, where they started the fireworks at midnight, because that's the only time it's dark enough, Americans have been celebrating freedom today. All kinds of freedom. 8-year-old Rashad Ricketts of the Bronx, New York, says he's free today at a special country camp for city kids, free of noise and fear.
It's one 4th of July away from home, and that's the best 4th of July any person can ever get.
Felicitas Flores of East Los Angeles is also free from 9 years of worry about being sent back to Mexico. She was given permanent residence yesterday. And meet Al. He's free from drugs.
I've been clean over 3 years, the 28th of this month.
In China, they destroy statues like this, but in Chinatown, in Los Angeles, there's room for the goddess of democracy, room for dissent. For Chinese students here, freedom is very serious and heady stuff.
Here, I can say everything, anything, you know. Even I can say down with Bush. Doesn't matter here.
In America, Mark Lamont is free to protest right in front of the White House. China's leaders wouldn't understand or tolerate that. There is much about America that defies understanding and explanation. How to explain the homeless and the hungry, for example. What is freedom for them?
Freedom is letting the doors be open. The doors be open to all.
So Americans celebrate this 4th of July, freedoms, big and small. For folks in Somerset, Wisconsin, it meant a day on the Apple River. For 14-year-old Elisa Crispy of Beverly Hills, California, the celebration came early, yesterday. Freedom after 2 long years.
All-American Weenie Roast.
And let it be noted this 4th of July that tiny Nome, Alaska's Cub Scouts took 100 hot dogs, all the fixings, and their softball equipment to Siberia, the town of Providenia, just over the Bering Sea, to celebrate something radical with the Soviet kids. Celebrate the 4th of July and freedom. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Los Angeles.
And that's the CBS Evening News this Independence Day. I'm Connie Chung in New York, sitting in for Dan Rather. See you tomorrow night. Thank you for joining us, and for all of us at CBS News, good night.
This is CBS.